ReachIP is a boutique education advisory that helps aspiring students get accepted into top-tier education institutions globally for high school, undergraduate, master's, MBA, and executive education.
Thank you very much for being here on a Saturday morning in the Bombay office of ReachIP. My name is Vibha Kagzi. I'm the founder and chief education officer here. And it's my absolute pleasure to have Whitney here with us from the University of Virginia's Darden School of Business. I also had the pleasure of visiting Whitney this summer. I was on campus with them, and in a nutshell, they put Indian hospitality to shame.
That is high praise.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you guys earned it. So it was a fantastic experience, and really glad you made the effort to come here and meet some of the students. So thank you so much for being here. Hello everyone on Instagram, and we're really happy to have you here. So let me just get started with Whitney. If you could just talk about your association with the school. I know you've been there 12 years.
Yes.
So if you could just tell us what keeps you at Darden and what brought you to Darden.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say thank you all for being here and online. And thank you for hosting. This is my second time at ReachIP. I was here 2 years ago, and so it's wonderful to be back. And then, as Vivian said, it was wonderful to welcome her to Charlottesville earlier this summer. So I have been at Darden for 12 years, which has been an amazing experience. I love what I do because it's people like you. I get to travel all over the U.S., many places internationally, and get to share more about Darden, get to meet some really incredible prospective students who are so talented and have so many different interests and experiences, and the thought of those students coming to Darden and continuing in their journey, looking to pursue their passions, their purpose, the impact that they want to make in the world. It is my joy. So I work closely with our admissions team, so kind of do all the admissions work, from reading applications and interviewing and traveling. I also work closely with our operations team, so a lot of the behind the scenes, the application and event planning and things like that. So get to be involved with a lot of different aspects of our admissions work.
Okay, terrific. So, we get a lot of information about Darden from various sources, right? Like, I could go on the website, I could speak with an alumnus.
Right.
But since we have the pleasure of having you here, in your own words, what do you consider the USP of Darden? What do you think really makes Darden a standout school?
Yeah. Well, Darden is in Charlottesville, Virginia. It's part of the University of Virginia, which is one of the top public institutions in the U.S. So a phenomenal university founded by Thomas Jefferson, so the U.S.'s third president. And the way that we talk about him, you would think he's still living and breathing and walking, but a great influence. And he really believed in the power of education and making it accessible to the students. And so from the very beginning, he created this. It's not sort of your teacher-student relationship, it is more of colleagues and sharing of information. And so Darden has really built upon the traditions and the values of the University of Virginia. We were founded in the 1950s, so our history is shorter, but like I said, really built on those foundations, the honor code that we have, the practice and traditions of student self-governance, so that's the students being very involved in the leadership of the school is a huge part. So we are I will go into more detail, but I think if I had to boil it down to one thing that Darden is known for, it is the way that we teach the case method, really high engagement learning.
Okay, great. So since you touched upon the case method, let's dive right into the academic side of Darden.
Yeah.
If you could just walk us through the curriculum, the course structure, how the first year differs from the second year,
Right.
and for the benefit of those who are not aware, a little bit about the case method and what really makes the case method stand out.
Sure. So case method is in many ways our shorthand for high engagement learning, very participatory. So you are going to be an active member of the learning experience. So for many of us, our undergraduate degrees or maybe previous master's work was probably a lot of lecture-based. Faculty members saying, this is what you need to know, and then you demonstrating your learning on a test, on an exam, in papers, things like that.
I think we're all familiar with this. We've all been products of the Indian system.
Exactly.
Very much lecture-based.
Exactly. So spin that on its head, and the very opposite is Darden. So the case method, what students are asked to do, they are asked to prepare the case, which is a narrative, a story, a business, an organizational challenge with some appendices to support it. Students are asked to read that case, work through it on their own. Then they come together with their learning team, which is about 5 or 6 students. They work through the cases for the next day together. So you're really able to share in that preparation and have different members of your learning team with different areas of expertise. Then you go to class the next day, and each member of your learning team, you're actually in a different section. So you'd be in section A, and you're in B, and C, D, E. So you go and you have 3 classes. You asked about the first year. So at Darden in the first year, the first 3 quarters are the core curriculum. Everybody goes through it together. So whether you have an expertise in accounting or in marketing or in operations, you go through it together and you share what you know and your expertise while you're learning from others.
So you can't place out of a...
You cannot place out. And that's really where so much of the learning is coming from your classmates, as you know from your experiences. It's a real benefit of that. So in the core, you have class Monday through Thursday, 8, 10, and 11:45. You will be in your section during that time, so the same 67 students or so. You'll go through the core together. You get to know those people really well. At first, people are really trying to figure out, okay, how do I learn? How do I talk? How do I raise my hand? How much do I participate? And then as you go through it, you get more comfortable with each other, and with that comes the ability to dig deeper and to learn more and to really put yourself out there and share what you know, share your suggestions. This is what I would do, but you learn to hear and listen to your classmates and really get a different perspective from them. So you go through that core. That's everything from accounting and finance, operations, marketing, strategy. These things you have to know, these business fundamentals. But we also have leading organizations and business communications and ethics. Ethics has been part of our core from the beginning. So you go through that core together. Then you take electives. So that that last quarter in your first year, you begin to take electives. A lot of times you're choosing classes that are going to help you be successful in your internship. And I can get more into that later. In the second year, you can take electives. So we talked about the first year, very structured. You know where you're going to be, what classes. Then when you get into electives, it's open and really gives you that chance to customize your experience. So you can drill down deeper, or you can stay really general and continue to take that broad breadth.
So if I want to study finance, let's say,
Yes.
Can I just take all 4 or 5 electives in finance?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can take, we have several concentrations. Those are the recommended classes that our faculty recommend in those particular areas. So you can do that, but you're not required for a concentration. And so I think that gives you flexibility.
But so if I want to declare a concentration, I can declare
You can,
one.
yes. And then particularly for our students from outside of the U.S., we're extremely excited that we have a management science specialization now that is STEM designated. So that was approved by the university this spring. And just to give you an indication of how realistic it is to pursue, so our students who were pretty much nearing the end of their program, 95% of them had earned the designation.
Wow.
So
Oh, okay.
it makes it extremely, doable, realistic.
It gets covered in your second year.
Yes,
Okay.
through the elective. So we were able to structure it that it is a broad range,
Okay.
and so I think that makes it even more compelling. Gives you that STEM designation. Now, the next step is the opportunities that you would pursue professionally and whether there's that matchup, but it certainly does position you well.
Okay, and which basically entails that you get a 3-year
Yes.
OPT
Yes.
as opposed to
be able to
regular
apply,
one.
yes,
Sure.
3 times
Okay,
for the
great.
H1B.
So you have like a 3-year window in which you can get the H1B visa.
Correct.
Okay. And along with this concentration, I could potentially do a second one as well.
Yes, yes. Most likely, the management science specialization is a couple more classes than a concentration, so probably there's probably a lot of overlap.
Okay. And then do you have to actually work in that field to be eligible for the OPT extension?
I think that the job needs to have that element so that they can. I think the onus is on the employer to show
That there is some
there is
element
that
of
element. Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Okay, so let's move out of the academic side to the fun side of Darden.
No, class is fun. You sounded out of class.
That was me just putting on my serious face, but now let's talk about life after classes.
Yes.
And I know there's a lot of stuff at Darden, and I think we should just share that information with everyone. So if you could tell us about the amazing clubs you guys have on campus and all the range of extracurricular activities that Darden has to offer.
Yeah.
So what does a classic day look like outside of school?
Yeah. So we believe so much that your education, your whole experience is the full experience. So the academics are a big part of it, no doubt, but it is the opportunity outside of class. So there are a range of clubs, over 40. Generally, to put them into 3 different categories: your career-focused clubs that are going to be so instrumental in your career search process. Then we have affinity clubs. So our Darden South Asian Society is wonderful and helps students who are from South Asia, but also students that are not, learn more. So celebrating Diwali and other festivals throughout the year. Then we have the community-focused clubs that really enable students to further invest in the community, get to know Charlottesville, give back to Charlottesville, really help facilitate and strengthen that bond with the broader community. So in the first year, Darden students really have an ability to benefit from the clubs, to be a participant, to go to the conferences and to go to the networking events and just really get a lot out of those. The second year students are in the leadership roles, and they are the ones that have planned and organized and fundraised. So in your first year, you get ample opportunity to benefit from those different activities. Then in March of your first year, that's when the leadership changes hands. So students, the Students Association, the Darden Student Association is our student government. So the elections happen first there, and then it's the club leadership roles. And so you have that spring where the new leadership gets to work hand in hand with the outgoing, so that knowledge transfer happens. And so then the next leadership teams get to take the reins and get to plan the conferences, get to figure out what they want the experience to be. They have opportunities to fundraise, to reach out to corporate partners, to network with alumni, to be speakers, panelists, and things like that. So we really believe that students have opportunities to take what they've been learning in academic settings and apply it through being a leadership role, needing to lead your peers when, other than being elected to that, you really don't have a lot of authority. But how do you motivate your team? How do you keep them on task? I mentioned networking, getting to reach out to alumni and engage and encourage them to come and participate. So clubs and organizations are a huge part, but then there's also going to be, other ways that the students might blow off steam or exercise and get to know Charlottesville. I think that there's a really wonderful way that the students get to make the most of their time, not just the school, not just the career search, but really getting to have fun.
Could you also talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, because that seems to be a big trend here in India and worldwide. So what specific resources do you have, dedicated to entrepreneurship in general, and maybe perhaps a little bit on social entrepreneurship as well?
Yeah, thank you. So entrepreneurship is, I think, something really embedded in who we are and in the experience for all Darden students. Because if you think about it, you go through this core curriculum, this strong general management foundation. You really are getting a sense for how all of the different pieces of the business are interrelated, and then also be able to take that higher perspective, an enterprise perspective, as we talk about. So if you think about it from an entrepreneur's perspective, you've got to be a jack of all trades. You need to be doing a little bit of everything. So I think that, a little chicken or the egg, did the entrepreneur come first, or, did Darden help cultivate that? But it's something that I think is really a part of our students. I think they're very entrepreneurial minded. But for those that are really want to take that next step, we have ample resources. So the biggest and sort of the overarching is our Batten Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And Batten is that umbrella that is able to fund faculty. So Raj, that visited for a recent master class here in Mumbai, funding for his research and the work that he's doing, the cases that he's writing, the electives that he's teaching, all of that, is really made possible through Batten. But then there's also programs that Batten runs, and so facilitating our incubator, which is a 10-week accelerator that is offered during the summer, that is actually open to anyone, not just Darden students, not just UVA, but a way to take your business plan and work it through that accelerator program with some funding and many resources that come along with it. In addition, their business plan, business case competitions, Batten sees its role is really fostering the ecosystem that is in Charlottesville, but then also other places. So they have a relationship with an incubator in the Washington, D.C. area. They have a member of their team that's actually located in the San Francisco Bay Area, and she's doing a lot of really neat things to help students learn more about startup, early stage opportunities, and really extending that breadth.
Okay, terrific. So there are lots going on for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we got a good sense of the school, the curriculum, life outside of classes, etc. Let's move to admissions, right?
Oh yeah.
All this sounds fantastic, but what's the way to Darden, and how do we sort of access all these amazing facilities? So let's start with eligibility.
Yeah.
So just let's crank through the essentials. So let's hear your views on the GMAT versus the GRE, whether you have a preference for it, and do you guys have enough data on the GRE average scores so far, and what would you recommend to students? Is there a preference or not?
Yeah. We accept both the GMAT or the GRE, and we do not have a preference. I don't know what it is, so our students just started this past Monday, and I don't know the exact percentage. The class of 2020, 17% of them submitted with a GRE score, so that number is growing, and I think it will, my bet is for this class of 2021 it'll be higher. We're a little later to put those numbers out, more just because inertia, and we just, but so I think it is going to be a verbal 162 and a quant 161. They're two different tests, and I think they allow students to showcase their abilities in different ways. So our general advice is we don't have a preference. So if you haven't yet begun down one path or the other, take practice tests. See which one you do better. And I'm sure your team is really great at helping think through those options. So just know from our standpoint, and for many of our peers, we don't have that preference. So whichever one works for you.
Okay, terrific. That's very helpful. In terms of eligibility for numbers of years of work experience, officially, I think on the website you're about at 4.5 to 5 years. What advice do you have for people who are, let's say, 2 years or 3 years out of college, and what advice do you have for people who are, let's say, 7 years out of college?
Yeah.
Is it still advisable to apply, and if so, how should they be positioning themselves?
Sure. The average is right around 4 years, but it is the average, so that means there's a range. As I've talked about, we are a case method school. So if you're going to be in a learning environment where you're going to be learning from your peers and you're going to be sharing your experiences, we want to make sure that all of our students have something to share as well as what they're looking to gain from this experience. So if you're earlier career, we're going to look to understand, just a little bit more about what you've done in those 2-3 years. There's so many roles that students can, or that applicants will have where they've really gained a lot of experience. Maybe it's an analyst role that's a very formalized program where they've gotten to touch upon different aspects of business, and it makes sense for them in terms of their career trajectory to go to business school now. Great. We just want to know that you've thought about it, that you have a sense of where you are, that you have some good experiences to draw from. If you haven't had a chance yet, though, to take on leadership roles, if you're earlier career, we're going to look more closely at your undergraduate work, because there might be a demonstration of leading clubs, being really involved in your undergrad. If you are at the other end, then what we're going to look to see a little bit more closely is your career progression. Our expectations are going to shift, and so if that's the case, then we might be looking to see more management, not necessarily of people, but a budget of projects and things like that. So that's something that we're going to be looking for. We like to see a steady progression in terms of your career.
Since you mentioned the range, do you have a range that's publicly out there?
Yeah, it's 2 to 10.
2 to 10. Okay.
I mean, 10 years, it's a little hard to generalize for those outside of the U.S., but like a lot of times, those are students for U.S. military or something where you've been committed for
something else.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the average sits around 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Which means that you actually apply when you're 3 years in, because there's a cycle to. So
Correct.
for those who are applying, just think about it from that perspective. Okay. I know one of the essays, I'm going to get into all the essays today, but just the first essay, let's talk about a little bit about that. It talks about leadership, right?
Yeah.
So without cranking down on the specifics of the essay, how do you guys look at leadership, right? If you were to define leadership, how would you define leadership?
No, that's why we ask others to. No, I mean, I think leadership is, there's not anything specific that we're looking for. Really, the questions that we ask are really to get a sense for what you've accomplished or where you are, what your thinking is. So give us examples to help support those. So we're not looking for some specific combination of leadership skills. Yes, we are looking for that potential in all of our students, because we believe that with this MBA, you have an opportunity to make an impact in whatever you do. And so we want to know that this is something you're thinking about and that is a driving sort of force for you. I'll mention we do have that diversity, and I've gotten a couple of questions, particularly in India, and I will very much say this is the first time we've asked it, and so I don't know what the answers will be, and I look forward to that. But please understand that the way that we in the U.S. might define diversity and how we think about it, I very much know that that's going to be different than how you define diversity and you think about it, and that is just fine. So answer it in a way that is meaningful to you and authentic to you, and that's the right answer.
Okay, great. Okay, I think that's very well worded.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So a lot of people, we have some people in the room who are chartered accountants.
Yes.
Now, as you probably know, with chartered accountants, they need to do something called an articleship, which is a 3-year sort of work requirement.
Yes.
A lot of them do it while they're still in college, because they start their CA preparation while in college. How does Darden look upon the articleship? Do they consider it as full-time work experience because it's done parallelly with an academic experience, or do you look at articleship experience as postgraduate work experience only when it's post-graduation?
That's actually a very good question. First off, I have great respect for people that pursue that path. And I know it is very arduous and many steps along the way. So
And
might
a lower acceptance rate than Darden.
Yeah. Yeah, highly recommended.
Highly recommended.
So we very much value that work experience, whether or not you choose to officially make it post, because we're going to ask in the application how many months of full-time work experience.
Right.
If you feel that that is full-time work experience based on what your commitment was, then include it. That is fine. But we will, through your application, your resume, your education sections, we'll be able to line things up. A lot of times people will, in the additional comments section, might just make a couple of notes to clarify. But it is, how valuable to be taking what you're learning and immediately apply it to the work.
Okay. So you're sort of okay with people positioning as full-time experience as long as it's clarified?
Yes.
Okay. Just one more question on admissions. How do you guys look at fit? I know you're here for interviews, and once you crank down the essentials of the GMAT and the years of work experience and the leadership experience, etc., how do you then really look at a candidate and say, well, we think this is a good candidate for our school? So how does Darden look at fit?
Yeah, it's such a great question. It's so difficult. This one word, it sort of leads you to believe like you're supposed to fit into a mold, but no. We don't want everybody to be in that same mold and to be the same background. The case method wouldn't work. So we want people from all different backgrounds. So we want people that have leadership potential and sort of have that purpose. Whether or not they know exactly what it is, that's okay. But you have some drive, you're motivated, you're excited, you've got good interpersonal skills, you want to work on teams, you have a global mindset, you have a yearning to see what is out there and to learn from other people. Whether or not you've had that chance yet, that's okay. So I really, and this is my take on it, so I really am looking for people who recognize that this is the experience that Darden offers and want that. That for me is the right combination, because this is a place that's going to demand and ask a lot of you, and that's exciting. I think that's what you want. So we want to know that you're hungry for this, that you want to immerse yourself, that you want to jump right in, and you want to be an active participant. That's what we're excited about, because that makes us better, and we learn from you while you're learning. So that's what we're trying to get at through this process.
Okay. Someone is just going to make the most of all the resources you've put out.
Thank you.
Okay.
Better articulated. Yeah.
No, I'm learning from you. So, okay. Once again, since we have you here, could you give us a little glimpse, a sneak preview into the admissions process? Like, how does it actually work once I hit submit on my application form? What happens next?
Well, if you were to hit submit today, it would sit there until September 3rd. No, yeah. So all that to say, there's not a great benefit in applying well in advance of the application deadline. Yes. But we do have members of our team that will do a quick overview of your application to make sure all the required components are there, and if they're not, follow up to make sure you're complete. Then once it's determined complete, then it's going to go through several reads by members of our team. And so it's going to anywhere from 2 or 3 up to 5 or 6. Just kind of depending on how it works itself through. But the first read is always going to be the most thorough read. And what I like to tell applicants, we all probably have our different styles, but we really read it from start to finish. So think about as you're, work on your application, and then definitely take a step back, wait a couple days, and then come back with fresh eyes and read it again. That's how we're going to read it, start to finish. We might have the resume to give us a little bit of an overview, but so make sure that each piece is connecting and that story is coming through. And if it's not, we do have the additional comment section at the end, so you can very briefly, succinctly explain anything that may need further detail. But the first read is going to be the most thorough, and then after that, it's the next stage would be, do we interview or not? And then if we interview, it will be interviews whether it's in person or Skype, whether it's a member of our team, an alum, a student, all the same, no difference there. And then after the interview, then it's read a third, well, if it's that streamlined, a third and a fourth time. Donna makes the final read. We do have admissions committee.
She reads every single application that comes through for
Every-
final admin?
Every application that has an interview.
Oh wow, okay. So very, very thorough.
Yes.
Wow, multiple reads. You're seeing sometimes even up to 5 or 6 people reading an application.
Yes.
Okay, so we better be careful. All those commas, full stops.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes, we do have some English majors on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's actually very thorough compared to what I've been hearing from other admissions committees. This is a very, very thorough
Yeah.
process. So you're taking this extremely seriously. Wow.
Well, yeah, because you all are, you know, and you're putting a
Yeah.
lot of time and energy into that, and so we do as well.
And how often do you guys come to India to interview? I know you're doing some now.
Yes, so with the introduction of early action and these open interviews, this is the first time that we're doing interviews while we're traveling. And just because it's two of us, you know, we were only able to do but so much, but it's been going really well, so we'll see. For most of our candidates in India, most of them will interview via Skype, and then some, you know, may choose to travel, but that, you know, is not required by any means.
Okay, so it's typically Skype interviews for round 1 and round 2.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the first time you've come here for interviews?
That we've done interviews, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Generally, we've been traveling before the rounds and because of the way the process used to be, but now with early action, that opens things up.
Okay, great. I mean, it's very helpful to have you in person here. And,
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I'm presuming from your perspective also just meeting the candidates.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've said this a couple times, so I've met so many wonderful candidates from India, and most people, you know, they talk about the different cultures within your country, and you know, as much as I would try to read and learn, until I'm here, I don't get it, and so it's so valuable to be here.
And I mean, you speak about diversity. I can guarantee you, if you just have a conversation with just the people in the room, you will see the expansive diversity that India has to offer.
Oh.
You know, so
Yes.
this is within the city of Mumbai, but
Yes.
it's just packed in with so many cultures,
Agreed.
making your job even more complex.
Yeah, and more fascinating.
And more fascinating. Okay, so thanks for covering admissions related questions. That was very helpful. Let's move to the next stage of financing your education. So a little bit about maybe the scholarships, financial aid options, and typically how do you see students from India financing their education, and a little bit about the tuition costs, etc. If you could just cover the financing aspect.
Sure. Favorite topic. So yes, so first off, recognizing that this is a big investment and a leap of faith in many ways. We have great track record. We have a great ROI on this experience, really strong career statistics and all of that, but understanding that this is a big investment and you want to make sure that, you know, mitigating those risks. So very much understand that this is going to be on your mind. So tuition and fees are generally will show them for 1 year, and then they may or may not increase for that second year. But what you see on the website is going to be the tuition and fees, and then on top of that will be the cost of attendance. So we'll factor in, you know, those costs for apartments and living expenses and things like that. Most of our students are going to do some combination of self-financing through loans. Darden is very fortunate in that we have wonderful resources when it comes to scholarships. Many of those through the very generosity of our alumni. So they take their experience and really benefited from it, and so they want to give back and help other people have that success, have those opportunities, so they can continue to prosper and really fulfill their purpose. So we've got a range of scholarships. Our most prestigious is the Jefferson Scholarship, so that's actually that is through the Jefferson Scholars Foundation, which is separate from the Darden School. But that is full tuition and a stipend. It has a selection weekend. We will be looking to nominate a candidate from India to come and be part of that in November. So excited about that. Other really tremendous scholarships that we have, the Batten Scholarship for Entrepreneurship and Innovation and Technology. So those two are the ones that have an additional step in order to be considered. So Jefferson, either you're nominated by Darden, or if you're invited to apply, there is an application in parallel. The Batten, for those who've started our Darden application, it's embedded, it's a one essay in there. So those are the primary ones that have an additional step. Most of our scholarships, it is your application package that is going to be considered for your scholarship. So think about, that's put extra weight on it, but just think about that is, you are being evaluated for admission, and then if you're offered admission, then the next step is competing for those prestigious scholarships. And so there are ranges from, as I mentioned, sort of the full down to, very different layers of 75%, half, a third, to 20,000 down to 3,000, things like that.
Do you know the corpus overall, just how much money you allocate to scholarships every year?
Yes, I don't know that we're. It is a generous budget, I will say, and our dean has so if he's had two main missions, and you got to hear from him, it has been expanding the global opportunities for our students, and then it's also recognizing that the cost of education is growing astronomically. And so how do we help make this more affordable for students? And so he has done a tremendous amount to rally the alumni and increasing our fundraising there, which has been tremendous, and that's going to help our students when they're looking to finance.
And everyone gets to go to
yes, thank you.
One global trip a year, right?
So we do have, thank you to the Batten family as well, a scholarship that covers the course fees for one of our global trips. So we've got Darden Worldwide courses. They are trips internationally, and then they're immersion trips and also consulting projects.
Okay.
Awesome.
So once you get in, you know for sure you're going to
yes,
a foreign country
one.
fully funded.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's a big one.
Yes.
Okay. So a little bit about life after Darden. If you could just talk about ultimately for a lot of people an MBA is sort of a means to an end.
Right.
And the end being obviously a job and the career trajectory that you look forward to. So a little bit about the Career Services Center, how you help students, what industries are you seeing people go into? Is there any fungibility between going from Charlottesville to, let's say, New York City or the Bay Area? And where are your students going?
Sure. We have tremendous career resources, and they really see their primary role is teaching you, giving you career search skills that you will have for your lifetime. So yes, I think it's always those immediate steps. You're trying to get into business school, then you're trying to get an internship and job. But if you step back, this is preparing you, this degree, from the network, from the education, from the friendships, from what you're learning, to these career services. This is something you are going to leverage for the next 30, 40 years. So I know it can be easy to think about it in the immediate, but also think about it in the longer term. So our career team is really, they are helping you find that internship. They're partnering with you. They're partnering with you on that full time. But they're also really helping you gain these life skills that you will find important and helpful throughout. So their job begins really the moment that we offer admission. We offer career services at the beginning, more on our admitted student website with videos and a lot of great resources and tips. But then our career team just launched an online self-paced module course called CDY, Career Development Wi-Fi Week. And so we're going to be offering that to the class of 2022 very early on. So career assessments over the summer, a check-in meeting with one of the career consultants on staff, loads of videos so that you can understand what is it like to recruit in technology, what is it like to recruit in consulting, investment banking, to give you that early training. And then once you begin your MBA, you will work with a career consultant, and there's going to be career education courses. There's going to be, you have a better expectation as to what it's like to recruit in these different industries. What's the timeline? What are the best practices? You're also going to work with a second-year student, a coach, who's just gone through what you're going through, and that can be so valuable. They're the ones that are like, yeah, you got to make those networking calls. Here's how you do it, or, and kind of help support you through that, case interview prep, all of those things. Students are amazing at helping each other, paying it forward.
I remember the student you guys had as lead talked about how he got so much help for his case interviews from all the second years, and that's how he really cracked his interviews.
It is. It's that's something that is just pervasive at Darden, is that paying it forward, helping each other. So the second year students are very instrumental in helping the first years in that search process. And then I mentioned earlier the club. So there's sort of those three prongs, I think, are the primary. And then you're going to be interacting with alumni. It's a lot of times it's these alumni that are part of the recruiting team. So they're coming to Charlottesville often and spending time, because they want to know, just like we want to know that you're going to be a great fit and that we're excited. They want to know is they're looking to hire you.
Right. School pride.
Yeah. Yes.
So a little bit of sectors. Could you share where do people go?
So consulting continues to be incredibly popular. I think, if you think about it, it just continues to expand your learning opportunity. Ample opportunities to work with different teams, different organizations. Technology has surpassed financial services. And we talk about these big industry buckets, but if you think about it, there are many different functional roles within each of these, particularly in technology. You have some people going into more finance, some people going into product management, things like that. So you're going to see a range. Financial services, marketing, general management opportunities, and kind of tapers off a little bit, but we see a range there. And as you probably know, and many students coming out of business school, they go to work in their first job, and then they're going to make some more transitions. So.
Okay, so consulting stays number one, technology number two,
right?
And then you're seeing some financial services. Okay, terrific. Okay, I think that's a pretty comprehensive overview of life at Darden, life post Darden, etc. Just end on one piece of advice you have for everyone in the room. You have way too much experience to not get your advice.
I know. I worry, maybe because I have too much experience, I worry that I can simplify these things too much. But what I am always struck by, and what I've, in my 12 years, everything that you're doing now is building towards something else. I know it can be a means to an end, but what you're doing now in terms of thinking about why you want your MBA and what you want to do, that is so valuable. That's going to help you as you craft your application and you go on interviews and things like that. But very soon you're going to be talking to recruiters, you're going to be talking to friends and family if you're not already. The more that you can articulate your story and help people understand what you're looking to do, but also the value that you can bring to an organization, everything is building on itself. So if you can kind of see that bigger picture and know that, when you're slogging through those essays and, trying to cram for the GMAT or what have you, you're doing good work that is building on itself and is going to help prepare you for this experience. If you can, try to enjoy it. I mean, this is how awesome. What you're looking to do is really to change your life, right? I mean, you are investing in yourself and these opportunities so that you can give yourself opportunities going forward and meet incredible people, learn incredible things, travel. This is amazing.
If you're doing life coaching on the side, I'm going to sign up.
Yeah.
But that was absolutely incredible. I love how you framed everything you've said. You've been so passionate, you've been so authentic in your delivery and your dialogue. So I try and thank you for the wonderful banter. It was quite an experience actually talking with you. We're going to sign off. So thank you for everyone who's watching us online.
Contact us at help@reachiv.com for any further queries and join us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.